All right, let's just jump right in. What if I told you there's a hidden pattern, a blueprint, connecting ancient megaliths, those strange star-shaped forts, a wildly popular anime, and even the suppressed work of Nikola Tesla? Today, we are going deep on a theory that says our planet is literally wired with ancient tech, a massive system that's been hiding in plain sight, with its true purpose actively scrubbed from our history books.
Now let that sink in for a second. This is the wild claim that's at the very heart of what we're talking about today. The idea that a piece of pop culture isn't just a fun story, but a manual, a key, really, to unlocking a planetary secret that's been buried for who knows how long.
So what anime are we talking about? It's Full Metal Alchemist. And the core idea here, from the source material, is that this entire story, which is all about a nationwide geometric pattern used for a massive, world-changing energy event, is actually a thinly veiled blueprint for a system that exists in the real world. Okay, so this is where it gets kind of spooky. Look at the parallels here. On the left, you've got the fictional alchemy from the anime, but on the right, those are concepts from modern zero-point energy physics. You know, the theory that there's a sea of unbelievable energy in the empty space all around us. Both of them rely on these huge geometrical arrays, massive power inputs, and super precise geometry to basically manipulate reality. The argument is, this isn't a coincidence. It's the exact same system, just described in two different languages. One is mystical, the other is scientific. So let's take this idea out of the anime world and plant it firmly here on planet Earth. The theory goes that there's a global grid of these star forts, pyramids, and other megaliths, and they aren't just random historical sites. No, they're part of a functional, planetary-scale machine.
So here's the thing. The placement of these structures is anything but random. They are supposedly nodes in a massive network, laid out according to sacred geometry. And the star forts? This part is wild. Their shapes perfectly match something called cymatic patterns. If you've ever seen those videos of sand on a speaker, and when a certain frequency plays, the sand snaps into these incredible geometric shapes, that's cymatics. The theory is these forts are literally frozen sound, built to resonate with the specific frequency. And maybe the weirdest part? Really old maps apparently showed these grid lines, but then, poof! After the 1500s, they just vanished from all maps.
And I love this quote from the source material because it just hammers the whole point home. You can rewrite history books, you can change the maps, you can tell any story you want, but the physical evidence, the pyramids, the forts, the giant stone structures, they're still here. You can't deny they exist, even if you've completely hidden what they were for.
Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question. If this grid is real, why isn't it common knowledge? Well, the theory proposes a massive deliberate cover-up, a total rewriting of our past to hide the grid. And the absolute prime example of this is the bizarre story of how dragons were systematically erased from history and replaced with dinosaurs. This timeline just lays it all out step by step. In 1842, the word dinosaur is literally invented. Then you get powerful Freemasons like Andrew Carnegie and J.P. Morgan funding this huge museum boom, filling them up with plaster casts of these brand new creatures. Carnegie himself sent copies to museums all over the world, making sure everyone had the same story. And then, the final nail in the coffin, the dictionaries change. Within just one generation, a creature that was listed as rare suddenly becomes purely mythological.
And here we are again. Stone don't lie. You have these carvings in stone at ancient places like Angkor Wat in Cambodia and in a 15th century English cathedral that clearly show what we would call a dinosaur. This stuff predates the discovery of dinosaurs by hundreds of years. It suggests humans saw these things, which just completely blows the official timeline out of the water and points to a whole lost piece of history.
Now, this theory puts one group right at the center of this whole historical rewrite, the Freemasons. But, and this is a big but, it argues that their entire purpose went through a radical and kind of hostile transformation.
So think of it like this. There are two faces to the organization. Before the mid-1800s, Freemasonry was supposedly an archive, a place that preserved ancient knowledge. You had guys like Mozart allegedly encoding principles of frequency and geometry into his music for everyone to hear. But then, something shifted. And after that pivot, it became a mechanism of control, breaking up its own knowledge and actively suppressing the very information it was created to protect.
So how'd they pull that off? Well, according to the source, it was basically a hostile takeover from the inside. Step 1, you dilute the teachings. The real functional physics gets replaced with vague moral stories. Step 2, you create infighting. You split the organization into competing groups so nobody has all the pieces of the puzzle. And step 3,
The final move, you take the really powerful knowledge, the real secrets, and you move them completely out of the lodges and into classified Black Ops programs. The archive was essentially looted, leaving behind an empty shell.
And this is where the story jumps into the 20th century, and to a name we all know, Nikola Tesla. His work on wireless power and resonance is presented as the modern key, the way to understand and maybe even reactivate this ancient planetary grid.
The story of what happened after Tesla died is just incredible. The guy's barely gone, and within hours, the FBI is there seizing his entire life's work. They bring in John G. Trump. Yes, that Trump's uncle, an expert in the exact fields Tesla was working in. He publicly says all of Tesla's work is basically worthless speculation, and then it's immediately classified at the highest levels. Fast forward a few decades and the HARP program gets built using patents that are direct descendants of Tesla's supposedly valueless ideas.
So that's the real question, isn't it? Why would you go to all the trouble of publicly calling something junk, only to immediately lock it away and turn it into a weapon? The story just doesn't add up. It strongly suggests that those papers contain something of almost unimaginable power.
And now, we're here. The final, and by far the most shocking part of this whole theory. All of these different threads, the anime blueprint, the star forts, the erased history, Tesla's stolen tech, they all come together and point to one absolutely terrifying conclusion about what this grid is really for.
The term is planetary transmutation, and the idea is that the grid isn't just for power, it's a weapon, a planetary-scale weapon that, when activated with the right frequencies, could trigger a phase transition in matter itself. Think of it like this. It wouldn't be a flood of water or mud. It would be a wave of energy that instantly turns carbon-based life into silicon-based rock. It petrifies everything. People, animals, trees, all turn to stone, instantly, creating a new layer of geology and hitting the reset button on civilization.
And with that, we come full circle. This one horrifying mechanism could explain so many strange things. The mysterious mud flood layers that have found all over the world, entire forests that have been turned to stone, instant fossils. It all points back to a single technological event, a coordinated geometric activation of a planetary grid, just like the nationwide transmutation circle in Full Metal Alchemist.
So we're left with this final, lingering thought. If this theory is even partially true, if history really does operate in these long cycles of recovery, then renaissance, then reset, and if this ancient knowledge is now bubbling back to the surface, it really makes you ask, where are we in that cycle right now?